what would you say are the top 2 or 3 skills? They could be soft skills or hard skills that are really needed to succeed in the industry. You know, as someone, you're focusing a lot on recruiting now. What are those things that you look for in someone that tells you, I need to bring them onto my team?
Yeah. I mean, this is tough because part of it is almost like a systemic issue for our society. Like, I wish that everyone in the US not only learned how to read and write and do math, but also learn how to code. And you don't have to be the best coder in the world. It's just, if it's like a staple, like a tool that, like, just like how you can at least do multiplication, that you at least know how to like write simple programs to automate the boring parts of your life, the monotonous little tasks, so that you can then be freed up to go do the stuff you actually enjoy. And this is funny. Like, I was actually on a ranch with some, like Tim Tebow and like you know, so some politicians and stuff, and they were talking about how in China they graduate every year the same number or more than the number of engineers that exist in the US. So in general, if we have, say, 5 million engineers in the US, well, China graduates that many per year, and so it crushes us. And you know, they're talking about how China is not, you know, they're not far behind on the space race. Really, just Elon Musk is the reason why US is doing so well there. But when it comes to some of these other areas, they're just crushing us in manufacturing and everything else. And they were saying, I mean, at the end of the day, the core fundamental issue here is they have such an emphasis on those things, like not just China, but also, you know, like Romania and Ukraine and Russia and those places before all the war stuff. Like, they just had a very hard focus on the hard sciences as opposed to like the liberal arts or the social sciences, right? And so I think something that I really look for in a lot of hires is some level of capacity to comprehend technological process or discrete logical thinking, if that makes sense, right? So meaning when you follow a very discrete way of going through logic, it's almost as if wherever you start, the end goal is always the same. The fact that people have arguments is just a result of miscommunication, right? And it's because one person has a certain way of thinking that actually is like not discretely mathematically logical. And so they just have arguments and miscommunication or whatever. I think that if our country cared more about the hard sciences, and specifically also one practical thing is just add more coding to curriculum, which I'm starting to see more of, which I'm super excited about, but it's going to take a generation to find out what that even looks like. If you're an entrepreneur today who hasn't had that type of training or education in elementary school, middle school, high school, whatever, go online and start learning some of this stuff just to get familiar with it. And even if you don't become a beastly Elon Musk coder, at least you'll have an understanding of how to communicate with other people who are, so that you can then build the team to go do whatever. Because you might be the salesperson of your team or the marketer of your team, but you're not the coder of your team, and that's fine. It's just, if they're speaking a different language from you, I mean, you're just not going to head in the same direction, and likely you'll part ways, which is actually the number one reason why startups fail, is founder breakups. So.
Wow. I'm sure like your coding background has been able to help with that, being able to communicate with developers and stuff. Yeah. It's interesting you brought up the China thing, because with the recent hearing with Congress with the TikTok CEO going before the board, one of the biggest problems what they were saying is that China shows their kids a different feed on TikTok than what we get, STEM. So they actually recently just added the STEM feed to TikTok. I don't know if anybody uses it.
Yeah, well, I got it like literally the week after that congressional hearing. I got the STEM channel, and then no one else in my office got it. So the thing is, that week, the week after the congressional hearing, I was actually at TikTok USA, their HQ. So I was like, was I on their Wi-Fi or something? Like, it got downloaded to my phone, but like I had it before everyone else. And I was looking at this, I was like, this is freaking awesome. I'm learning so much. It's actually such a good tool. Yeah. It's such a good tool. And so, man, I wish that, like that had been something that it makes sense that it's a positioning thing, right? Like TikTok, obviously the founders are Chinese, and like the vast majority of the company, like when I was at TikTok USA, like the HQ here, like pretty much everyone on campus was Chinese. And like, I was like, I did not expect that. I expected just like, it's like maybe they hired a bunch of American people. I don't know, I guess to maybe market to more of the US demographic, but like, no, everyone, like 90% of people there were Chinese. But I was like, oh wow, it's like little China here, which is really crazy. I think that, man, had the US been more proactive about that, like at the beginning of COVID, for example, our world could probably would look very different today in the US, man. It's crazy. Yeah.